Hey everyone, welcome back to the Xpand Realty channel. It's Randy Hatada here in Las Vegas. We're going to be talking about our market update and a little bit about what's going on in the city we call Las Vegas. So let's start with some of the changes that's happening. And as you know, Las Vegas is changing daily, right? From what we knew it back then to what we know it today. It is a different place, different time, and it's going to be different in the future as well. Some of the changes happen to be happening in the medical field, and I'll only bring up a couple big ones. But one of the big ones happens to be that there's a new standalone children's hospital here in Las Vegas. So that's a first, and that's good news. You know, we should be spending some good investments on the children, right? Children are our future. So that's that. Another update for the medical world is that we are also getting our first dedicated cancer treatment center, which opens at the Las Vegas hospital. So, you know, touchy subject, but glad to have the treatment there. Here's a big one. If you've traveled on the 215 West and the Southwest area, you've probably seen some red buildings or red roofs, kind of curved roofs like that. And the company is called Switch, and Switch is a huge data center that's been around for 20 years. And what they're bringing to town now is the first Nevada AI factory. As you guys know, AI is a big deal here in the world today. I mean, it's changing the world as we know it. And in order for AI to operate, it takes a lot of computer power. And so that's where these AI factories come into play. And they hold all of these servers and computers, and it does their thing. So a lot of these new Switch buildings are dedicated to just that. So there you go. Big business to Las Vegas, creating jobs, opportunities, and yeah, a lot of technology to the world. So let's get into our Las Vegas housing update. You know, we've been doing this for a couple years now and giving you monthly updates. And sometimes there's more emphasis on the numbers, and sometimes there's more emphasis on the gut feel that we have, right? How are we feeling as practitioners in the field? And I can tell you that it's been different, and we've been through a lot of changes this year, more than probably the last 10 years. We're used to things appreciating and going in the upwards direction. This year has been volatile, and we've been going up and down, up and down, kind of like a little roller coaster. And there's a lot of concerns about where this market is going. I know you guys are probably here because you want to know as well. And so we'll go over the numbers. I'll go over what I'm feeling today and what our agents are feeling. And then we'll kind of break down what this means to you or what this means to Las Vegas housing. As far as the feel right now, it's been slow. I can tell you sales have been down. Inventory has been accumulating. There's a lot of buyers that have low confidence in the housing market, thus have not really offered or pulled the trigger on engaging the housing market. Same for rentals. A lot of applicants have held off on applying for new rentals and staying where they are. So right now it's been kind of like a slow period for most realtors and housing. However, I do feel some momentum. We're seeing a lot more viewings. We see a lot more analytical viewership online. And when I say viewings, we see a lot more viewings of our listings, meaning realtors are opening those doors and showing buyers our listings. We see a lot more engagement in our open houses. In fact, we have an agent that did an open house in Sun City, and in one day, you know, over 8 parties came through in a 4-hour period. So things are looking up, and I just feel the momentum, and it's a good feeling. It doesn't really change the mark for the buyers right now, but it does change things for sellers, because I know sellers have been on the fences, and a lot of you guys, if you're a seller, are getting frustrated. Things aren't moving the way as expected, and that's quite frankly the market that we've been dealing with. Right now, unit sold is at 2021. So that's a positive thing because that's up 75 sales from last month. And so that's the difference. And just remember, these numbers are reactive to things that have happened prior to us analyzing these numbers. So we're in August, we're bringing you July numbers. And most of these July numbers probably took place in in June. So, all the offers that are put in June are closing in July, and that's what we're reporting to you today. And my opinion of this month is that it's going to be even better as far as more sales, more momentum, especially for sellers, because I know sellers, we've been in pretty much a buyer's market for quite some time now. Now, again, we're up 2,021 units sold. That's only down 5.8% from last year, 6%. So we're getting back to our normal market slowly but surely. Again, this isn't earth-moving numbers, but we do watch trends. And again, the trend is upwards, more sales closing. And for us practitioners, that's a great trend to see. Median price point, what are you thinking? Are we where we were yesterday, or are we up and down from that? And yesterday, meaning last month, we were at a market high of 485,000 median price point. What do you think? Well, if you said there's no change, then you were right. Maybe a little bit of a quick trick question, but our median sales price is still 485. That is still our market high, and we've been holding on that number for quite some time. We've bounced to about the 480 mark 2 months ago, but we've been, pretty stable at the 485,000 mark for quite some time. New listings has gone down by just a tad, by 10 new listings, which is only up 10% from last year. So we're at 3,242 new listings. And our median ask price, showing seller confidence, is at 519,900, which is no change. So sellers are selling for the same prices as last month. We're having more closings. Our median price point has not changed, and new listings has dropped just a tad bit. Units available overall has gone up just a little bit by 155 units, making it 7,150 new units available. And the more important number that we like to track is effective availability, or month supply, which is influenced by units available and the number of units sold. And we're at a 3.5 month supply. And that's actually down from last month by a little bit, by 0.1 month supply. But that means that supply is going down. And again, we follow trends. So the trend is that inventory is shrinking by hair, but in the right direction for a healthier market that favors both buyer and seller. Right now, our market does favor the buyer as far as availability, as far as potential negotiation. However, again, price points are high. The real question that most buyers are asking is it going to go down or is it going to go up, right? And that's one of the conversations we'll have. So that's all your single family stats right there. And next comes the condo and townhome stats. If you're thinking condo sales went up, you are also correct. Condo sales went up just a little bit, 32 units, making it 547 sold condos or townhomes. That's down about 11% from last year. And our median price point actually went down for condos and townhomes by $15,000. That's quite a bit actually, which is down about 2% from last year. So our median price point for condos is $290,000. Again, down 2% from year over year change. And so we're in a similar market than last year, favoring the buyers. So buyers, if you're listening, there may be opportunities for you to get better pricing on condo townhomes and probably better negotiations going on, which is why that number has changed. New listings for condos, townhomes went up by just a hair as well, by 12 new listings, making it 938 listings. And the median ask price is about the same. We're going to call it the same, $296,500. And so that means that sellers are pretty much asking what they were asking last month or the month prior. And there's negotiations probably going on, which is why the median price went down $15,000, but the median ask price stayed the same, which means opportunity to you buyers because sellers are bending and sellers are negotiating to get things sold. Units available is up by about 58 units, making it 2,622 units available. But again, the number we like to watch is effective availability or month supply, which actually went down. And so just to give you again the calculation for effective availability, you take units available and then you take units being closed and then you get the number. And basically we're down 0.2 month supply of inventory, going from a 5-month supply of inventory to 4.8 month supply of inventory. And the condo townhome market is probably adjusting a lot more than the single family market because the effective availability was so high at 5-month supply last month and 4.8 this month. I know it's a broken record because I probably say this every episode to you guys, but a healthy market here in Las Vegas, my opinion, my guess, educated guess would be a 3-month supply of inventory. And so, single families at 3.5 is just a little bit above your healthy market. And for condos, townhomes, we're quite a bit above it by 4.8 versus, what I said, 3-month supply healthy market, which means that there may be more adjusting going on in condo townhomes in the near future. And there probably is going to be more negotiations because, sellers, if they want to sell in a timely manner, they're basically cutting deals, negotiating, or maybe they'll have to start adjusting prices soon. So there's opportunity there, buyers, for your condo townhomes. For sellers, this information may help you figuring out what to do next. But the good news overall is that, again, as a practitioner, we are feeling momentum. And buyers, if you're listening to this, I would really consider you talking to us or talking to your realtor, because it's these leading indicators that keep you ahead of the actual numbers that show change. Because if you rely on the numbers, which is reactive, you're already behind the gun, right? So you kind of got to go with indicators and make some educated decisions based on your needs, based on your timing, based on your budget, based on your comfortable interest rate, right? Based on whatever you feel is a great payment for mortgages, should you be using financing, and figure out, should I start shopping again if you're not, or should I hold off on the market? That's the conversation happening daily for sure with our agents and buyers. And then with our sellers, it's like, hey, how come my property hasn't sold, right? That's the different conversation going on. And these indicators will kind of give both parties or you guys some insight on what to do next. So sellers, it's good news that things are picking up. The median high price point is holding, and buyers seem to be getting confidence again and entering the market. For buyers, be careful with what you're doing as far as your timing with offering or not. Again, have that heart-to-heart talk with your realtor or someone in this world, if not us, that understands the market, that gives you options, data-based and experience-based options, right? Not just throwing darts because my friend told me so, right? I'm not hating on friends, but you want to get your information from a professional that comes from data and experience. That is what will arm you to be ahead of the game, yeah? And give you a competitive advantage. So do that. Right now, there are some opportunities with negotiations, and there's certainly some opportunities with new builders. Right now, especially if new builders have properties or homes in construction or already built spec homes, I know they're negotiating right now. So whereas in the past, it's like, here's the price, take it or leave it. They are negotiating. You can potentially put an offer in. You probably want to use a realtor to do all of this. And then they also have sweet spots for incentives and all of that. And a good realtor or lender, if you're working with one prior to a meeting with the sales rep at any new builder, will kind of advise you if the incentive is a good incentive or if you have the ability to negotiate, like I'm telling you, because that's not always the case. And right now, it is the case. And here's a little tip for both realtors and buyers. There's a bunch of builders out there on fiscal calendars, and they have to sell very shortly within the next 30 to 60 days. So you can use that to your advantage because they're going to offer more incentives and maybe they're more flexible on extra things. Maybe you can get your realtor to, if they're not negotiating on the price or credit options, incentives, maybe you can get a refrigerator thrown in, a washer dryer, maybe they can throw in some blinds, but there's many ways to negotiate and it's not always the price. So a good realtor will be able to help you navigate that. You might not get the same feedback from the sales office, from the builder, so go get a realtor. And then make sure they get paid by the seller so that it's not a cost to you buyers. That's the way to go. Again, well, not again, but commissions are negotiable in today's world. And because of the market we're in, we're still getting sellers to pay commissions, including new builds. So don't be afraid to engage your realtors, buyers, because most likely that expense, we can pass it along to the seller. Sellers, that's the market we're in. We need our buyers agents to bring the buyers to us, bring the buyers, get them educated, give them confidence to offer in this market. And even renters in this market in Las Vegas, a lot of our renters come from showing agents, rental agents, referral agents, whatever you want to call them. But they get influenced by these agents, and a lot of our renters come from agents who set up a search for them, they show the property, and then the tenant applies, and then property management company approves or denies that tenant, or negotiates and then approves the tenant. But make sure you're getting educated, right? And use a representative, whichever side of the fence you're on, because this is too tough a market, number one, to compete with this market. I really, really would say that everyone in this market should use a professional. And then second of all, these shares that I'm sharing with you should be coming from your expert, and it goes a long way, and you should make your decisions based on all of this and how it applies to your personal situation. Now, we've had this conversation before. This is a sticky one. We've talked about like how the news, how the media is putting gloom and doom out there. And it is a slow market. That is a fact for buyers and sellers, for real estate in general, right? And it started with the slow interest rates last year. The high interest rates last year, which slowed our market down massively. And then all the geopolitical things that happened with our President Trump and all of that, and tariffs. And then based on all of that, we had our stock market crash. And then it came back strong. And now the stock market or our financial world is very strong. So, consumer confidence came back once they got a grip on all of those changes and announcements. And housing tends to be a little bit more reactive and a slower change to that financial market. And again, if we're following the indicators, we're slowly seeing buyers enter back into this market and starting to pull the trigger. And I think a lot of it is, there's opportunities out there right now. And how long can I wait, right? And what's the alternative to waiting as a buyer? So here's the real summary for buyers. It's like, well, if I'm not buying today, you're doing one thing, which is gambling on where the market is going, unless your timing dictates that. And the gamble is simply, is the market going to go down or is the market going to go up, right? And you either going to benefit on that gamble or you're going to suffer on that gamble. But it is a gamble. Rest assured, it is a gamble. It might be an educated guess, but I call sports gambling educated guesses, and I don't always win in that. So we're going to call it a gamble. And again, let me reiterate those consequences to you buyers. Right now could be the sure thing where you know what your interest rates are, you know what your mortgage payment is because you should be pre-approved with your lender. And if you're comfortable with the price after negotiations, which you should be negotiating, that's the expectation with sellers and buyers, like expect negotiation. That's the market we're in with high inventory. But if you're comfortable with that negotiated price, you're comfortable with your payment, that's the sure thing because you know you can afford it, you know that's the house you want, you know you're happy with the payment. Most buyers, the unsure part is maybe I could get a better deal in the future, or my friend told me that the market's gonna crash. Well, the flip side to that is the market might go up and it may never adjust down and you're gonna pay more. So, there's two sides of the fence to that. Make sure that if you're taking that gamble, you know what the risk is and you're getting the information from an expert or analyzing the numbers the way we're showing you today. Because then you can be whole to your gamble, right? If it paid off or not. But I just keep on sharing it because the sad part of all of this is that a lot of realtors, in my opinion, have not stepped up to take a uncomfortable conversation or have that uncomfortable situation in order to give you the facts. And if you pick A, here's what could happen. If you pick B, this is what's going to happen. If you pick C and do nothing, here's what could happen, right? And realtors, you need to have these talks. And buyers, sellers, I'm sure you're asking these questions, right? So these talks need to be had. And like, I'm not saying that there's a right answer because no one has a crystal ball, but based on that conversation, again, you're going to have a plan in place. Here's the plan. And here's plan B. If not, you're just kind of waiting until things fall into your lap. And if it falls the other way, you may get priced out of homeownership. And I'm sharing this because I've seen it happen too many times in my career. During COVID, for example, a ton of people waited for the market to crash, held off on buying, and simply got priced out of the housing market in general. And unless the prices go back down to where their qualified amount is, pre-approved amount is, they'll never be able to buy in Vegas. Well, in the areas that they wanted to buy in at least, and so they're gonna have to settle. But a lot of people miss that opportunity, specifically to FHA and VA buyers where you have limitations and the market passes that limitation and all of a sudden you're priced out of the market. So the consequences if the market goes up is pretty devastating. If it goes down, great, you get a better deal. But I think one way hurts harder than the other, right? In other words, the liability or the risk of the market going up outweighs you being able to potentially get a better deal. Now, the other situation we're talking about with most buyers is where you living right now if you're not owning, right? What's your housing situation like? Because you are living somewhere, right? And of course, if you're in a relative's house and you get a free ride, great. Timing's on your side, power is in your lap, and you have the control of timing, right? But if you have to renew a lease, if you're renting, if you're paying for an expensive Airbnb type situation, if you're in a hotel, your expenses it's going up, right? And that's not sustainable long run. So you're probably thinking, man, how long can I hold out doing this? I'm going to have to pull the trigger and either rent something or buy something because I can't do this short-term housing. It's too expensive. And it is too expensive. Do the mathematics, right? If you're renting, that's the other thing is the alternative to buying is renting. And I'm not against renting because renting has its place. But if you want to be a homeowner, I would do the mathematics. And let's say your average home is about $1,950. Let's call it $2,000 a month, right? Average median rental price. It's actually above that, but let's call it $2,000 a month. And you say, okay, well, I'm going to wait a year and feel this market out. And I say a year because most leases are a year, right? And you don't want to break that lease normally. So you take 2,000 times that by 12 months, that's $24,000 that you spent renting, waiting for this market to go downwards. Think about that. If you wait 2 years at that $2,000 a month, you're at $48,000 in rent, which is a pure expense to you. $48,000, think about that. And so if you're waiting for the market to adjust, I hope it adjusts more than that $48,000 if it took that 2-year wait, because that's what it cost you for that wait, right? Think about the mathematics behind it. And I think these are the conversations that most people aren't having, right? Is the alternative to renting or buying, right? And I can't, tell you, I have a lot of clients on like relatives' third bedrooms or couches or mother-in-law's house or mother-in-law's in their house or father-in-law, whatever it is. And it's getting a little uncomfortable. I hear it, you guys. I hear this like on a weekly basis from our clients. And that's not sustainable long run as well, right? I think your relationship with your family is more important or your friends. So think about what you're going to do. And again, I'm not pushing buying. I'm pushing making good decisions here for you, and everyone has a different situation. In fact, I'm telling some buyers to hold off based on their situation, and I'm telling some buyers to buy based on their situation, and that is my opinion. I share that as well, and they make that decision based on that opinion, based on the information they shared with me in conjunction with what's going on with the market. So that's how this formula should work, you guys. That is my big message of the day, more than the numbers itself, is if you're in the market to sell or buy, make sure you're educated. Sellers, now the flip side to this story is we see the market picking up. Good news to you guys, right? That doesn't mean you shouldn't adjust from if you're above market as far as list price. That theory is not working well in this market. Yes, I said it, sellers. Let's start a little high, leave a little room for negotiation doesn't work in this market, because there's too much inventory and too much competition. And what simply is going to happen, unless you have a gem of a house or something special about your home, but if it's just like a lot of listings, then it's just like a lot of listings but priced higher. And what's going to happen? Buyers are going to start from the bottom up, and they're going to look at pricing, and then they're going to do their viewings based on pricing, and they're going to start shopping based on pricing. And so that's what's going to happen, and your property will never get viewed. Maybe you get viewed online, and like couple is like, honey, look at that nice house. Yeah, but look at that price tag. Look at these other ones right here. That is what's happening in real life. So just keep that in mind, sellers. Like my best advice, and I'm gonna call it advice, my best consult to you sellers is start your listing at market price, market value, which is yesterday closings amount. Again, whatever the comps support, that's where you should start your listing, and expect negotiation, because unless you have something very special about your house, buyers are going to try and negotiate. Why wouldn't they? There's a lot of inventory, and as we've seen it, there's a lot of negotiations going on. Again, your median price point is $519,900, let's call it $520, and your median sold price is $485. So there is a $35,000 window between the two, right? And a lot has to do with negotiations. Not all of it, but a lot of it, including new builders. So sellers, get it in your mind that yes, you can start high, but if you really want to sell, start at market value. Leave a little room for the negotiations from then, because that's the market you're in. If not, stay high and don't blame your realtor. You're just going to have to wait a little longer, and hopefully the market meets in your direction, because just like I talked about the buyers, you're gambling, right? And you're gambling that people are going to see something special about your home, so they're going to go and spend their time to view your home. But I know that this strategy by probability is not working well, because we monitor all our listings and we listen to all our buyers. And that's the truth. And just to give you a little summary of how we look at listings, sellers, we market the heck out of it for starters. And I don't know about any other listing agents, but I know our team is doing extras to get this listing sold. And we market the heck out of it. We track the viewership, because that's how we know if we're priced accurately or not. Meaning hits online or views online, or whatever it is that we're advertising on, including the MLS and social media and all that stuff. Then we track how many showings we have, right? Because that's important. Most buyers aren't going to offer, or at least give you a good offer, without seeing the property. So showings and viewership, physical views, critical, because that's what's going to lead to offers, right? And the more views to showings to offers are going to happen in that order, and that's how we adjust pricing, right? Or adjust strategy, or adjust marketing. So a little bit more blunt today, a little bit more direct, because I feel that's the message that anyone interested in Las Vegas housing should be getting, right? And there's always going to be one-offs to what I'm telling you. I'm talking on generalities, but I'm talking reality as well, based on probability. This is what's happening, and this is what's working, and this is what's not working. In fact, I've even seen the great market strategy when we're in a good seller's market working, where sellers are bold enough to start their listing below market with the strategy of driving multiple offers and bidding wars. I've seen it work. It's a little bit of risky of strategy, but I've seen it work, especially in the affordable price point. And I've seen a house, I think it was listed at somewhere in the low 400,000, and it was undervalued by I think like 40,000. And there were a ton of offers in one weekend, which pushed it above the list price, and they ended at who knows what number. But the point was that there were like almost 10 offers on that property in a weekend. So that strategy works, but just be careful with it, because you get one offer, it's a full price offer, in fact maybe a little over list. It's going to be really hard for you to reject that offer or explain that to the buyer, right? And just so you know, the let's call it division ruling on what you're supposed to do as a seller without it being false advertising is, if a buyer gives you full list with no contingencies, you have to accept it, period. Now, if there's multiple offers, it's a different thing. But if you get one valid bona fide offer that gives you full list price with no contingencies, meaning no diligence period, no appraisal contingency, no inspection contingency, you have to accept it, seller. So that's the risk. But that very seldom happens. Most people have contingencies, which gives you an out. So a little bit of professional tip there. Maybe you can use that, but quite a bit of a risky play to start too low as a seller in this market. But I've seen it work. So back to my point, list at market value, and buyers, figure out your timing and figure out your strategy and get started on whatever plan you have. And if your plan is to wait, fine, but have a plan on when you're going to start and figure out why you came up with that plan. It might be, hey, when prices per square foot get to X or interest rates get to X, but have some kind of plan so that if it hits, you don't miss the boat. Because when you start working reactively, that's when you jump on the bandwagon, and that's when you technically miss the ideal opportunity that you've been planning for. That's why we're doing these podcasts, guys. That's why we're trying to stay ahead of the game. That is why I don't just give you numbers. I give you a summary and I give you an assessment or consult at the end. And this is how our meetings go, just so you know, because these talks need to be had. And if you're not having these talks, go have these talks with your realtor, because they're relevant. And if your realtor can't give you straight talk with rationale on the why this is what I would consult you to do, have them seek help from their broker or something, because these are the tools you need to navigate this market and get the best outcome possible. There you go. Feel free to reach out to us with additional questions. Please comment below if you would like any other topics besides our market updates. I know I've been telling you we're going to give you more, and we're going to give you more, but that's soon to come. We have a lot going on here internally, as you know. We're looking at the big picture, and we're really trying to put a big dent in Las Vegas and upping our game as a company. But we always have time for you guys, so please reach out, because we want to give you the information. We want to advise you, and that doesn't mean you have to engage us as your agent. But start there, get the information. And if it's not us, that's fine as well, but get it from a professional. And be careful what you listen to on the media, because again, gloom and doom sells, negativity sells, and they're not always factual. There's a lot of assumptions in there. And just to give you one quick example, the news put out an article 2 months ago saying Vegas housing about to crash, no buyers in sight. Well, that's absolutely a false statement. There's a ton of buyers. They're just not offering as aggressively as they used to, or that they're slow to pull the trigger, right? That is what's happening. But the buyers are here, trust me. Why I'm so confident in saying that? It's because we represent them. And number two, we follow the statistics. And just following the statistics and the people relocating to Las Vegas, they're here. Which comes to my last point, the snowball effect, right? After everything we talked about, if the buyers are here and they're in Where are they living, and is that sustainable? Probably not, right? The buyers who haven't rented, or relocations who haven't rented and haven't bought, are living somewhere, right? And that's not sustainable long term. We just talked about it, so I'm going to save you the time. But they're going to have to make decisions, right? Because if not, they're paying huge expenses, or it's suffering through a huge inconvenience, right? And they're going to have to, if that's you, you're going to have to figure out what's your timing on engaging in a rental property or purchasing a property. And that's a conversation you should have with a professional. And then that allows you to plan ahead and get the best outcome in this market. This market, again, has been more volatile, more challenging than probably any other market for the last 10 years, which is where us professionals can really earn our stripes. So rely on that. Rely on our experience. For me, I've been doing this 20 years, and it takes all 20 years to get to this point for me to project, the kind of confidence based on the experience, based on the data, to share with you, right? And I love it. I love it. That's what we work so hard for. And that's how we add value to you. And it only gets better from there. So allow us to help you, even if we're not representing you, right? That's a bold statement. But that's what we do. That's what we enjoy. Rather than seeing people follow bad info and make rough decisions or gamble with their decision. And it might be a good decision, but it's a gamble, right? They just throw the dice. Let's go buy something. Plan ahead. This is a big purchase, maybe your biggest financial investment in your life, or one of the biggest in your life. So take it seriously. Use a professional. Have the seller pay that buyer agent fee or whatever it is, and do your thing. I'm gonna leave it at that. Do your thing. Hopefully this share helped you in some way. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. That's where the meat and potatoes of consulting lies. We don't know what we don't know, and we try to fill in that gaps, but you need to ask the questions. Because if you don't ask the questions, we can't add the value we want to add. That is where all the negative things come from, is unanswered questions, bad decisions, buyer's remorse, all that stuff, insecurity, lack of confidence. Because when you ask the questions, you're going to have the answer. And with that answer, you can make good decisions. Whether you like that answer or not, you're going to have the information to make good decisions. So as you can see, I'm passionate about it, and I'm a broken record, but it's for your own benefit. You guys have a wonderful day and enjoy Las Vegas. Take care.